one of the stars of season 5 of the hit show Cobra Kai, that's going to be available for streaming this very Friday, September 9th, only on Netflix. The man who's played John Kreese in so many of these great TV episodes, and of course the Karate Kid film series, Martin Kove. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm great. What was it like? Who called you to say, would you like to reprise your role from the Karate Kid series? Walk me through getting that call.
Well,
Martin
all
Kove.
3 writers, and I was in touch with Josh Heald, one of the 3 writers, and they had gotten Billy and Ralph, and I was interested in doing it, and we had, I think it was dinner here at Dantana's, I think, and I was interested in doing it, but I did not want to do it in the one-dimensional framework of John Kreese in Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3, just tough ice, and I said, can we write him with more vulnerability, with more texture emotionally? And they said, yeah, we're interested in doing that. So they'd done it a little bit with the flashbacks and all. And my son was actually in the first flashback. He played a bully that you think is me, but he isn't. He's bullying me at 1965 circa in a flashback, in a diner scene. But the bottom line was, each season they come up with more of a backstory that I backstory everything. So I write a lot of lines in between the lines of the script, and I create a fantasy, a background, and every one of my notes, working with mercenaries, working with Army Rangers, that I tried to give them each season, they were a year and a half ahead of me. They just knew everything. They had the same plans for my character as I did.
Well, that's the beauty of television, right? Is that you can plan ahead, obviously, if you're fortunate enough to get renewed. And then the minute this hit, it was on YouTube to start. And obviously you came towards the end of the first season, but the ferocity of the fan base love for the return, because of the stuff that you're talking about. It wasn't just cookie cutter, one note reprising of the characters from 30 years before. It was an actual deep dive into psyches and relationships and real life stuff. It was really neat.
It came at a right time because it was the highest rated show YouTube ever had.
Right.
And they left the writers alone to create.
Yes.
They didn't hold them, when I did Cagney and Lacey, you had 6 years and you had constant people trying to reinvent things rather than stick to current events that Barney Rosenzweig insisted, as the creator of the show.
Right.
He insisted we stick to the events of the New York Times, and then we'll just write scripts about that. Well, nowadays you can't really do that. You get a lot of interference, and YouTube let us go. And then it's all in the writing. And I find out, if I go through conventions, I always ask people, why do you watch the show? Why is it so important to you? And it's basically because the parents wanted the kids to watch Cobra Kai movies, the Karate Kid movies.
Oh, I showed it to I've got a 13-year-old, well, at the time, 13, 11, and or 10 and 8. We showed it to them. And they
after they started watching Cobra Kai?
No, before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had no idea what Cobra Kai was at all. And we just said, you know what, let's show a movie that... We said, let's show a movie that when we were kids. And of course, they immediately said, no way.
Yeah, right.
Of course not.
Of course.
Immediately, no. We don't want to watch something that's old. And I'm like, it's actually outstanding. And they ate it up, Martin. They ate it up. It was amazing. Kids did it.
You got lucky that you were able to do it first.
Yes.
Most of the parents ask the kids, and the kids say, no, I don't want to watch what you watched. You know?
Right.
And then they watch Cobra Kai with the kids.
Yes.
And then the kids say, you know that movie you were talking about?
Yeah, let's watch that.
Show me that movie.
Right.
So the adults, this is a story related to me so many times. They'll show them Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3, and everybody's hooked. And what it creates is a family show that you and I watched as Ed Sullivan. When Ed Sullivan came on, it became a family show, and we'd get around Sunday nights and watch it. There was always something for someone. Now that's Cobra Kai now. There's always something for someone. Whether you're 6, 16, I get occasionally cameos requesting not only bar mitzvahs for kids, or priests saying we really want you to do a pep talk for someone because we're having an auction in the congregation. And
Sure.
we want a John Kreese pep talk.
Yeah.
But I get stuff of people turning 60 and 70 who are fans of the show.
Of course.
So it's like, it's a little phenomenon. And Billy and Ralph and I don't look that much different than, knock on wood, So it's like the parents are watching what they watched when they were 16. And the kids are just enamored with everything else.
Cobra Kai, again, season 5 is coming to Netflix starting on this Friday. We've got a game we here that we play called Celebrity True or False, where we ask about your filmography, your television story, as well as your career. And that's out there on the internet.
I'll never work again after I do this,
just to
right?
see what's true or false. Let's hit it. Martin Kove, Celebrity True or False. Hit it, please. Hit it.
Celebrity True or False.
You can't handle the truth.
See, we have window dressing and production value for you right there, Martin
Whoa.
Kove. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I know you're blown away. First things first up. True or false, Martin Kove? You were encouraged to stay in acting by none other than Sean Connery, who later became tennis buddies with you. Is that true or false?
It's true.
Okay. What were you on the fence? And Sean, how did you come across Sean Connery?
Sean Connery, I was his stand-in in 1972 when I was still acting in New York for a movie called The Anderson Tapes. And it was like a glorified extra. You just stand there, you listen to Sidney Lumet direct,
Yeah.
you watch, you watch Sean interact with Martin Balsam and all these other people. And I learned one thing. I learned how to listen
Okay.
by watching Sean Connery. Then probably 15 years later, I've done Karate Kid. I'm a little more established, and I bump into him on a tennis court. And I said, "You want to hit the ball?" And I said to him, "Do you remember me? I was your stand-in." He says, "Nope." He said, "Nope." He said, "But do you want to hit the ball?" And I said, "Sure." And we're hitting the ball, and he was terrible. He wasn't hitting well. He had a back problem.
Oh, boy.
And he was cursing. But he was cursing, which I can't say here on the show. But he was cursing so much like we do as teenagers, and I'm cracking up hysterical because I'm saying on the other side of the court, I'm playing tennis with James Bond, and he's cursing just like I do, And I'm dying. I couldn't hit the ball back either because I was laughing so hard. And then we became friends, And yeah, so what they're referring to is I asked him, because I was accepted to a classical repertory company, and I was accepted also to the NYU School of the Arts.
Yes.
At the same time. It would have been the 5th year of college, and I said, I posed the question, do I go back to school or do this? And he said, "Young man, if you can do Antigone, you can do anything," which means go work with the repertory company and forget about school. And I did.
And you did that.
I did that.
And so after the Anderson tapes, you started getting some gigs here in town with the Rockford Files, right? You were on the Rockford Files?
That was in New York.
Okay.
I was there, and I came here, and I guess in the first year I was here, I got a lot of those guest stars, like in the Rockford Files, like 8 TV shows and 3 movies.
Because you told a story off camera here. You knew James Garner off set, right?
Yeah.
And did you go to a sporting event with him or something like that?
We went to, we had the same orthopedic doctor, Robert Rosenfeld, who ran with the Raiders.
Okay.
And he took us to all the games, and we went on the field and with the passes and heard all the hits and the bangs.
Up in Oakland you're talking about?
Yeah,
or
both.
Here? Okay.
Oakland and
L.A.?
And L.A. They played in L.A. a couple of times. Then they were still the Oakland Raiders.
Right.
And it was fantastic. I mean, as a New Yorker, I didn't root for the Giants or the Jets, so this was my first experience, and I loved it. And I was a soccer goalie because I wanted to play football, but none of the schools had football teams that I went to. So ultimately, I just lived vicariously through these players.
What's it like going to a football game with James Garner? What was that like? He must have been like a rock star.
He's a lot of fun. I mean, but I love James Garner and Maverick.
Yes, sure.
I was, that was the period of time where there were 35 Westerns on primetime TV in the 60s. And Maverick was my favorite.
Sure.
And we talked about it, and we talked about the Americanization of Emily. We talked about we talked about The Great Escape.
What a great movie that is.
I mean, we talked about great films,
of course.
And that's the greatest thing working with, like when I worked with James Coburn, it was his last movie, and I just talked about Magnificent Seven, and I just talked about also The Great Escape with him. and an iconic actor. And I just have a good time. And even with Charles Bronson, we talked about so much. Charles Bronson surprised me. His favorite show was Cagney and Lacey.
I don't mean to laugh, but
I laughed. I was in a.
Was he a Sharon Gless fan? Is that what you're talking about?
That was it. Sharon Gless, Tyne Daly.
Yes, of course.
I'm at an event. After doing what I do, White Buffalo, 1976.
Yes.
Then I didn't see him till 1989.
Yeah.
I'm at a black tie event. I walk up to him and I say, "Hey, Charlie, you remember me from the White Buffalo?" And he says, "Oh yeah, you're still doing that series with them girls." And I say, "You watch Cagney and Lacey?" And Charlie says, "My favorite show."
Go figure.
Go figure.
Go figure. Martin Kove here, Celebrity True or False, rolling on. All right, let's get to some Karate Kid questions. Your role of John Kreese, true or false? Others considered for it: Kurt Russell, Jeff Bridges, Harvey Keitel, Leonard Nimoy, and Christopher Walken. Is that true?
No.
That's not true.
No. I mean,
Okay.
That might have been true behind doors that I never knew. The actors I knew, they were contemplating Toshiro Mifune. They were contemplating Chuck Norris. Toshiro Mifune, they were thinking about him for Miyagi, but he also could have been the teacher. But his whole group didn't speak enough English. He had a massive entourage, and John Avildsen told me the story. But he didn't speak English well enough either to play Kreese or Miyagi. But none of those other actors were mentioned. I think it was John Glover was mentioned.
But Chuck Norris was
Norris,
considered?
yeah. Oh, yeah, Chuck Norris.
Man.
Yeah, it would have been interesting.
It would have been definitely interesting, but obviously you were John Kreese, man. You still are today.
I don't know. It's just, it was pretty crazy because I never thought of that character as being any more than another heavy.
Yeah.
It was a couple of weeks' work, and none of us liked even the title.
That's that was one of the questions here, and let's get into that. True or false? No, you just said it's true. The cast universally hated the Karate Kid's film title. You hated it?
They felt like it was like a Bruce Lee movie, and but nothing wrong with the Bruce Lee movie.
Sure,
I mean, I love Enter the Dragon.
Sure.
But the bottom line is, we weren't like that. This was nobody expected the success of this film. You look at Casablanca, you look at Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, you see it once, bam. You look at the dailies, you know what you're getting. It's going to be terrific. No one really knew, and I would hear the story from Jerry Weintraub and John until they went to the screening. I think it was in Westwood, and they went to a screening, and everybody went wild at the end of the movie, and you get chills.
Yeah.
Ralph and I once were at a convention, and we watched the end of the movie from behind the screen, and 2,000 people were in front. So we watched the ending, and we still got chills. This is a year ago,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because it's one of those movies, it's a phenomenon. It means, and I have this discussion with Robert Kamen, the writer. He thinks the success is based on Ralph's chemistry with Miyagi. To me, the success of that film is the writing, just like Cobra Kai. Wax on, wax off, no mercy, sweep the leg, mercies for the weak, the force be with you, play it again, Sam. These lines come from great literature that were good scripts and made terrific movies.
Well, a part of me, because I've thought about it too, having seen it so many times. Martin Kove here on the Rich Eisen Show. So many people have been bullied in their lives. So many people have, maybe from a single parent household or moved across the country, and were desperate to seek a moment where they can get a toehold in life and turn things around or be successful or be loved, and that story, along with Miyagi coming in where he did, that's what it is. And obviously you and your character and Billy Zabka's character standing in the way, it's kind of classic. It's a classic tale, but told in a way that I'd never seen before, So I've got an interesting question for you here too, because we have this conversation. Is it a sports movie? Do you consider The Karate Kid a sports movie? In the same way where, obviously when you say sports movies, we think of the
like
natural,
Major
right?
League, the natural Hoosiers.
Right.
Yeah, movies
That's.
like that.
Do you consider the Karate Kid a sports movie, Martin Kove?
They did something on ESPN once, and they had a list of all the sports movies, and we were on this disc.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. I actually consider this. Karate. The value of karate is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
What it does for your focus in life is you can't even discuss it because it's also personal. So when you master and you become a black belt, you have mastered enough discipline and focus to assist in your life for the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the value of it. I don't think that learning to kick, the kick at the end, this crane kick, is a totally illegal kick. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. I mean, Billy is the Karate Kid, not Ralph Macchio,
Okay, sure.
And I've said this for 30 years, but nobody except after 10 years of the movie being in release
Yes.
realized that kick was a fantasy. There was no such kick as the crane kick. And then, but for 10 years, Bill, the Karate Kid has been Ralph Macchio.
Sure.
But the bottom line is, it's not about kicks. It's not about crescent kicks and punches and me going through the window with my real fist. It's not about that. It's all about the heart. And that's what that movie's about. And when I ask people why you like Karate Kid, and they all tell me the same thing. Mm-hmm. I identified with it because my father was in the military and we traveled a lot,
Yes.
or because I got bullied in high school, or because I had a romance that just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And that was the three elements that always allowed them to identify with Ralph, with the story. And so to me, it's not a sports movie. Is Casablanca a sports movie? Really, mm-hmm. We avoid the Nazis and all that stuff.
Right.
It's a movie about the heart and tenacity.
Martin Kove here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before I let you go, sir, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind channeling your inner John Kreese for a fun segment that we hope everyone will agree. We all thought, the NFL season is upon us. It starts Thursday night right here in Los Angeles, and I'm wondering we've written out some hot takes, some NFL hot takes from you. The camera's right there, and you can read it and deliver it however you can. Martin Kove, as John Kreese, NFL hot takes. Would you mind doing this for us right now?
Now, this is my favorite team, so I'm going to do it first out of order.
Okay, you can do whatever you wish, but first things first, we've got the music. Okay. John, here's Martin Kove, John Kreese with NFL hot takes. Go for it.
Everyone thinks the Dallas Cowboys aren't as good as last year or any year when they've won it all. But guess what? Dak is back. Zeke can eat. And their all-world rookie, Micah Parsons, is now a grown lion roaring in the turf. I say the Dallas Cowboys will sweep the leg and finally win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yes, Sensei.
That's thank you, Sensei. Okay, here's the second hot take. Martin Kove's John Kreese NFL hot take.
Pain has sadly existed in Miami ever since Dan Marino left the Dolphins. But not anymore. It's time for the new Cobra Kai in South Florida to raise with the greatest accuracy ever seen on the football field. He will finish in the top 3 as an MVP voter, and his name is Tua.
Yes, Sensei.
Okay. We have one more Martin Kove hot take for the 2022 season as John Kreese. You have the floor, sir.
So, the youngster in San Francisco still has his old sensei on the team. And the whole football world suddenly has no mercy for Trey Lance. Well, I say, Jimmy G will start no games. No games for the 49ers this year. And Trey Lance will help his team rule the NFC West dojo.
Yes, Sensei.
NFL hot takes from Martin Kove. That's a winner.
His favorite team. Did you hear that, by the way?
Cowboys, your
Yes.
favorite team, huh? How about
Cowboys.
that?
Cowboys. The Cowboys. I used to watch when I was the Raider fan, and then they weren't playing, and I would watch great quarterbacks, just teams. I would watch Dan Marino. Sure. I would watch Joe Montana. And I wasn't a fan of their teams, but I so very much liked watching in those days, Staubach and
Aikman later on.
Yeah, Troy Aikman later on. I mean, there was so much going on, so much hot football that, and then I became, eventually, the Raiders hadn't gotten a quarterback in a long time, and I got tired of losing.
I understand.
So I popped over to the Cowboys, and I'm going to go to a game this year and just go down there because it's just it's a good organization.
I can hear you. And so I guess your hot take's not so hot. You really believe the Cowboys are going to win it all.
Yeah.
So, okay, very good.
I agree.
All right, I know you want to ask Martin one question before I go.
We just need one crazy, Stallone story from Rambo.
What do you got? You got anything?
Stallone story from Rambo. Yeah, sure. I got a good one. It won't incriminate me. It's good. All right. So we're at a disco. I think Carlos.
By the way, that's it. That's it. That's a great way to start. Honestly, if we could have scripted it, you would have started it that way. I didn't mean to stop you. Okay, sorry, Martin Kove. You got the. So you and Stallone were at a disco.
Well, no, but we're at a disco with the security guys, and I think it's Carlos and Charlie's. I think that was what it was in Acapulco because that's where we shot.
It's getting better. Okay.
And this is good. This is good. And whenever the girls would come up to Sly and they'd ask him, one girl would come up and say, would you like to dance? And he would say no. And then another girl would say, they'd come up to him and if he said yes, he'd be in trouble.
Sure.
So he most of the time would say no. Well, in this case, I was sitting with him and a guy came up and said, what's the matter? You too good to dance with my girl? So all of a sudden there's a fight, and it's like we're all fighting, and we're all fighting.
Like an actual fight?
Like a fight.
In
Yeah, this guy threw a punch.
Acapulco disco.
He threw a punch in Acapulco. It's not even good to get into a fight in Acapulco disco, Mexico. But the bottom line is, the greatest story is that they had to lift Sly up, like as if you're watching Bruce Springsteen in a concert where he gets handled.
Crowd surfing, yeah.
Yeah. So they lifted him up, these security guys, and took him out of the club. We all had to leave the club. To me, it was hysterical because, we would have stayed there and fought because that's just what we do.
It's first blood. A lot of blood.
It's just what we do.
A lot of blood. That's what we do. Oh, my God. So, did you get the story you wanted?
That's a great story.
I mean, there's a lot of stories. That's like, doesn't incriminate me.
That's great. That's great. All right.
That's the story we were hoping for.
That's it. Season 5 of Cobra Kai can be checked out for streaming this very Friday on Netflix. Martin Kove, thank you for coming on. This was
my
a blast.
pleasure.
Thanks for your hot takes. Thanks for your hot takes. Appreciate it.
All righty.
That's Martin Kove, everybody. Follow him on @Martin Kove on Twitter and Instagram. We're back to wrap up the show in a moment.